The sky over 7 burned orange that morning. Captain stood on the observation deck of the Terran marine compound and watched the warships descend through the atmosphere like falling stars. Except stars didn't carry enough firepower to crack a planet in half. 47 ships, Lieutenant said beside him, her tablet displaying the scanner readings. Our intelligence was wrong. They said 20 at most. Didn't answer right away. He counted the dark shapes breaking through the clouds, each one the size of a city block. The Dominion didn't believe in subtle warfare. When they wanted something, they took it. When they wanted to destroy something, they made sure nothing remained. Behind them, the colony buzzed with panic. 7 was home to 300,000 aliens who had been mining rare minerals here for 2 generations. They were peaceful people. Their biggest weapons were mining lasers. Against they might as well throw rocks. "Sir, Ambassador is requesting immediate meeting," said. "Tell him I'm coming." Walked through the compound, passing Marines who were already suiting up and checking weapons. The 3rd Terran Marine Expeditionary Force numbered 800 soldiers. They were here as military advisors, teaching the basic defense tactics. Now those 800 humans were the only real military force on the entire planet. Ambassador waited in the communications room. The antenna twitched nervously, a sign of deep stress. His translator device clicked as he spoke. "Captain, you must evacuate immediately. They have sent a message. They demand we surrender the colony. They also demand—" Antenna drooped. "They demand we hand over all human personnel for war crimes." "War crimes?" crossed his arms. "What war crimes?" "Helping us," said quietly. "The claim that by training forces, Earth has interfered in Dominion expansion. They want to make an example of you, of all of you." Stepped forward. "What happens if we refuse?" Gestured to the window. Outside, the ships had taken up positions in orbit. Their weapons ports glowed red. "They will burn everything, every city, every settlement, every living being on this planet." "How long do we have?" asked. 6 hours. They want an answer in 6 hours. Looked at, she met his eyes and he saw the same thought reflected there. They could leave. The Terran transport ships could be loaded in 3 hours. They could be in orbit and jumping to hyperspace before the deadline. "Start evacuating civilians," said. "Captain," Santana shot up in surprise. "Get every civilian to the transport ships. Women, children, elderly first. Workers next. How many ships do you have?" 15 cargo transports, said. "But they can only carry 50,000 people total. The rest." "Then we buy you time to make multiple trips." Turn 2. "Get me a defensive perimeter plan. Every Marine on the line. I want firing positions, fallback routes, and supply caches ready in 2 hours." Smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. "Yes, sir." "Captain, you cannot mean to fight," said. His voice translator struggled with the emotion. 50,000 soldiers will land. Your 800 cannot possibly. "Watch us," said. The next 2 hours moved fast. Sergeant Han, a veteran with 15 years in the Marines, set up defensive positions around the main refugee processing center. His team included Corporal, a demolitions expert who began rigging the colony's infrastructure with every explosive they could spare. Specialist Bora worked in the tech center, her fingers flying over multiple keyboards as she hacked into the colony's communication network. If they wanted to talk to their forces, they'd have to go through her first. Walked the perimeter as his Marines dug in. These weren't regular soldiers. Every man and woman here had volunteered for deep space deployment. They trained in environments that would kill most aliens. Earth's gravity was higher than 90% of known worlds. Earth's atmosphere was more oxygen-rich. Earth's diseases were more deadly. Humans didn't just survive their home world, they thrived in it. That made them dangerous. Private Jin approached with a question about ammunition distribution, answered it and kept moving. He needed his people to see him calm, confident. even though his mind raced with calculations that didn't look good. 800 versus 50,000. Those were bad odds even for Marines. The message came at the 5-hour mark. A massive hologram appeared over the colony, visible from everywhere. It showed a commander, scales gleaming like black armor, eyes cold and reptilian. "I am War Master," the image boomed. "Humans of Earth, you have 1 hour to surrender yourselves for judgment. If you refuse, we will turn this world to ash. Your choice is simple: die alone or let millions die with you." The hologram vanished. Activated his communicator. "All Marines, this is Captain. In 1 hour they are going to try and kill us. They're going to try and kill everyone on this planet. They think we'll run. They think we'll abandon these people to save ourselves." He paused. Across the colony, 800 Marines listened. "They're wrong. We hold the line. We buy time for every civilian to escape. We show the what happens when they threaten Earth and her allies. Stay sharp, stay alive, and remember your training." He closed the channel. Appeared beside him. "First transport is loaded, taking off in 10 minutes. "Good. How many trips will we need?" 6, maybe 7 if we pack them tight." "How long between trips?" 3 hours minimum for the round journey." Did the math. 21 hours. They needed to hold for 21 hours against an army that outnumbered them 60-1. "Well," he said, "we've had worse odds." Raised an eyebrow. "When?" "I'll let you know if I think of something." The first plasma bombardment lit up the sky exactly 1 hour later. The orbital cannons fired, and the horizon exploded into towers of flame. They were targeting the outlying settlements first, the ones already evacuated, a demonstration of power. Then the drop pods came. They fell like meteors, 50,000 of them, each carrying a shock trooper in full combat armor. They hit the ground in waves, and the earth shook with each impact. Watch them land from his command post. They were 7 feet tall, covered in scales that could deflect small arms fire, and they carried plasma rifles that could melt through steel. His communicator crackled. It was Sergeant Han. "Enemy forces advancing on Sector 3. Permission to engage." Took a breath. This was it. Permission granted. Light them up. The battle for 7 had begun. The first squad that entered Sector 3 found themselves in a. Han had positioned his Marines in elevated positions with overlapping fields of fire. When they advanced, they walked into a storm of bullets. Terran rifles were different from the energy weapons most aliens used. They used gunpowder and metal, ancient technology by galactic standards. But at close range, a bullet moved faster than a plasma bolt, and it hit harder. The squad went down in seconds. But there were thousands more behind them. "Here they come," Han said over the comm. "Steady, wait for my mark." They learned fast. They spread out, used cover, returned fire with their plasma weapons. Buildings melted under the assault. But the Marines held. And in orbit, the first transport ship full of civilians jumped to hyperspace, carrying 50,000 souls to safety. Allowed himself a small smile. 1 down, 6 to go. The night sky glowed red. Sergeant Han pressed himself against the wall as plasma fire scorched the air above his head. Beside him, Corporal counted down on his fingers. 3, 2, 1. The building across the street exploded. The squad advancing through it disappeared in a ball of fire. "That's the 3rd trap today," said, checking his detonator. "We're running low on explosives." "Then we use theirs," Han replied. They kept coming. They moved through the colony in organized formations, their black scales gleaming in the firelight. War Master had committed 20,000 troops to the main assault, holding the rest in reserve. He expected the human defense to crumble within hours. It had been 8 hours now, and the Marines still held the perimeter. In the command center, Lieutenant tracked the battle on multiple screens. Red dots represented forces. Blue dots were her Marines. The red vastly outnumbered the blue, but the blue dots refused to disappear. "Second transport away," reported the comm officer. 100,000 civilians evacuated total. "5 more trips," muttered. She zoomed in on Sector 7 where Private Jin's squad was under heavy fire. "Jin, fall back to Checkpoint Charlie. You've got 200 hostiles incoming." "Negative," Jin's voice crackled back. "We lose Checkpoint Bravo, they flank Han's position. We're staying." Wanted to order him back, but Jin was right. The defensive line depended on each position supporting the others. If one collapsed, they all fell. "Reinforcements in 10 minutes," she said instead. "We'll be here." Across the colony, Specialist Bora sat in a dark room filled with screens and cables. She had tapped into the communication network 3 hours ago. Now she listened to their commanders coordinating attacks, tracking supply movements, identifying weak points. She also did something else. Every hour she hijacked their main channel and played sounds through it. Human sounds, laughter, music, screaming, random noises that made no tactical sense. It was psychological warfare. There were apex predators from a world where strength meant everything. They didn't understand why the humans weren't afraid. It made them nervous. "All units push forward in Sector 4, a commander ordered over the channel. Bora's fingers flew across her keyboard. She rerouted the message, changed the sector number, and sent it back out. Half the force turned left instead of right. They collided with their own troops in the confusion. She allowed herself a small smile. Outside, the battle raged. They had superior numbers, superior armor, and superior weapons. But the Marines had something else. They had experience fighting in hell. Earth wasn't a kind world. It had deserts that could cook a person alive, jungles filled with diseases that could kill in hours, oceans with crushing pressures, and Arctic zones that froze flesh in minutes. Humanity evolved to survive all of it. Every Marine trained in those environments. They learned to fight in heat that would kill most aliens, in cold that would freeze their blood, in thin air at high altitudes, in toxic zones wearing protective gear. 7 was comfortable compared to Earth. Sergeant Han led his squad through the ruins of a shopping district. His armor registered external temperature at 400 degrees from the plasma bombardment. The concrete was melting. The air shimmered with heat. "Keep moving," he said. "Don't touch the walls." They moved fast, weapons ready. Ahead, a patrol crossed an intersection. Han signaled. His squad took position. They waited until the patrol was in the open, then opened fire. Terran assault rifles barked. They barely had time to react before half their number fell. The survivors scrambled for cover, returning fire with plasma rifles. But Han's squad was already moving, using the smoke and ruins for concealment. They circled around, hit them from the side, then vanished before reinforcements arrived. "War Master," an officer reported too. "We've lost another patrol in Sector 9. That's the 7th this hour." Stared at the tactical display. His forces should have overrun the human positions by now. Instead, they were down in brutal street fighting. Every building was a potential trap. Every corner hid an ambush. "How many humans have we killed?" he demanded. "Confirmed kills, 37. 37. Claws scraped against the command console. "We have lost 800 warriors and killed only 37 humans." "The humans are difficult to pin down, War Master. They use guerrilla tactics. They don't hold positions, they attack and withdraw. And their weapons," the officer hesitated. "Their weapons are very effective at close range." Activated the communications system. His image appeared on holographic displays across the battlefield. "All forces, this is War Master. The humans are cowards who hide in ruins. They cannot face us in open combat. Push forward. Burn every building. Leave nowhere for them to hide. Show these soft flesh primitives the power of the Dominion." The broadcast ended. Specialist Bora intercepted it and laughed. She sent a message to all Marine units. Heads up, they're going to start burning everything. Adjust positions accordingly. Captain received the message in the command bunker. He looked at the countdown timer. 14 hours until all civilians were evacuated. They had to hold for 14 more hours. Status report. Perimeter holding. We've lost 43 Marines KIA, 72 wounded. Casualties estimated at 900 to 1,000. Did the math. The ratio was good, but they couldn't sustain it. Eventually, the numbers would catch up. Pull back from the outer sectors, he ordered. Consolidate around the refugee center. Make them come to us. The Marines began withdrawing in organized sections, leaving behind traps and surprises. Had been busy. Every building they abandoned was rigged to explode when they entered. They advanced, thinking they had broken the human line. Then the explosion started. 12 buildings detonated in sequence, bringing down entire city blocks. The casualties jumped from 1,000 to 3,000 in minutes. War Master roared in fury. He committed his reserves, sending the full 50,000 troops into the battle. He would crush the humans through sheer weight of numbers. The fighting intensified. Plasma fire lit up the colony like daylight. The Marines fought from building to building, floor to floor, room to room. They used every trick they knew: ambushes, traps, false retreats, flanking maneuvers. Private Jin held a checkpoint with 5 other Marines against 200. They had turned the building into a fortress, with firing positions on every floor and escape routes planned in advance. When they rushed the entrance, they met a wall of gunfire. When they tried to flank, they triggered mines. When they tried to burn them out, the Marines retreated to the basement and escaped through the sewers. "This is insane," one of Jin said. "We're actually winning." "We're not winning," Jin corrected. "We're surviving. There's a difference." The third transport ship launched, carrying another 50,000 civilians. 150,000 saved. 150,000 to go. In orbit, War Master watched the transport ships escape and felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. These humans were supposed to be easy prey, soft creatures from a weak world, but they fought like demons. They refused to break. They refused to run. "War Master," his second-in-command said, "perhaps we should negotiate." "No," slammed his fist down. We do not negotiate with prey." He activated the orbital bombardment systems. "If the humans want to die protecting these insects, then we will grant their wish. Prepare plasma bombardment, full saturation. I want that colony turned to glass." The warning came too late. The orbital cannons fired and the world ended in light. Captain saw the plasma beams descending from orbit. He had seconds to decide. If they took shelter, they might survive the initial blast, but the ground forces would overrun them. If they tried to evacuate, they'd be caught in the open. There was a third option. "All units fall back to the reactor facility," ordered. "Emergency Protocol 7. His eyes widened. "Sir, that's—" "Do it now." Emergency Protocol 7 was simple. Overload the colony's main reactor and use the explosion to cover their retreat. The blast would be massive, nuclear scale. It would kill everything in a 10-kilometer radius, including them if they didn't time it perfectly. The Marines ran. They abandoned their positions and raced for the reactor facility as plasma fire from orbit began hitting the colony. Buildings vaporized. Streets melted. The temperature climbed to oven levels. Reach the reactor first. He started the overload sequence, his hands shaking. 60 seconds to critical. The Marines poured into the facility's reinforced bunker. The last ones arrived with soldiers on their heels. Sergeant handheld the door, firing until his rifle clicked empty, then slammed it shut. 30 seconds. Outside, the ground forces celebrated. The humans were trapped. The orbital bombardment would finish them. 10 seconds. Captain held onto the support rail as the reactor began to scream. The whole building shook. 5. He thought about Earth, about the training, about every impossible thing humans had survived throughout history. 3. He smiled. The reactor exploded. A miniature sun bloomed in the heart of 7, expanding outward at impossible speed. It consumed everything: the colony, the ground forces, the remains of buildings. And in the center of that nuclear fire, protected by the thickest bunker walls ever built, 800 Terran Marines held on and prayed they were as tough as they believed. The transport ship carrying the last refugees jumped into hyperspace 72 hours after the reactor explosion. Ambassador stood at the observation window, watching 7 shrink in the distance. The planet's surface still glowed with residual heat from the nuclear blast. "They died for us," said quietly. His translator struggled with the emotion. 800 humans died so we could live. The ship's captain, unnamed, approached. "The Galactic Council has called an emergency session. They want our testimony about what happened." "What will we tell them?" asked. "That the Terrans fought like gods, that they held off 50,000 with only 800 soldiers, that they sacrificed themselves rather than abandon us." His antenna drooped. "Who will believe it?" "The recording systems captured everything. We have proof." "Proof of their bravery, proof of their sacrifice," touched the window. "But we don't have them, we don't have our friends." On the flagship, War Master stood before a holographic display showing 7. The planet was a scorched wasteland. Radiation levels were off the charts. The colony was gone. The human base was gone. Everything was gone. "Confirmed casualties?" he asked. "All 50,000 ground troops lost in the reactor explosion," his second-in-command reported. "The humans. There are no life signs. The radiation would have killed them instantly." Should have felt satisfied. He had destroyed the human force. Yes, it cost him an entire assault division, but the humans were eliminated. That was what mattered. So why did he feel uneasy? "Broadcast the victory message," he ordered. "Let the galaxy know that Earth's warriors are myth, not metal. They burned like everything else." The message went out across the sector. The Dominion had won. The Terran Marines were dead. 7 was a tomb. Watched the planet one more time, then ordered the fleet to begin salvage operations. The rare minerals in the colony were still valuable, radiation or not. He would send teams down in shielded suits to recover what they could. It was a good plan. It should have worked. On the 3rd day of salvage operations, a patrol disappeared. Lieutenant Commander Vex reported it to personally. "War Master, we've lost contact with Salvage Team 7. They were working in the reactor crater zone." "Equipment malfunction?" asked. "The radiation played havoc with electronics." "Possibly, but their life signs vanished all at once. One moment they were there, the next, nothing." "Send another team to investigate." The second team found the first team's equipment scattered across the ruins. The suits were torn open. The bodies inside were missing. "Could be scavengers," Vex suggested. "Some native predator we didn't account for." "On a planet we burned to ash," considered it. "Double the guard on salvage teams, and send drones to patrol the area." The drones reported movement in the dead zones. Thermal signatures appeared and disappeared. They were humanoid shapes, moving through areas where the radiation should have killed anything biological in seconds. "What are we looking at?" demanded, studying the drone footage. "Unknown, War Master. The readings don't make sense. These signatures are biological, but the radiation levels are lethal, I know." Zoomed in on one thermal image. It looked like a person, a human-sized person, walking through a radioactive hellscape like it was a summer day. "Impossible." Another patrol vanished, then another. The salvage teams began refusing to work in certain areas. They reported hearing sounds in the ruins, footsteps, breathing. Sometimes, laughter. "This is ridiculous," snarled. "You're telling me my warriors are afraid of ghosts." "War Master, you should see this." Vex played a recording from a helmet camera. It showed a salvage team working in a collapsed building. The radiation counter clicked steadily. Everything seemed normal. Then a figure appeared at the edge of the frame. It was human-shaped but covered in burned, blackened armor. The face shield was cracked. Through the crack an eye was visible, a human eye. The soldier turned, raising his weapon. The recording cut to static. Played it again, and again. That figure shouldn't exist. Humans couldn't survive that level of radiation. Nothing could. "Send a full combat team," he ordered. "I want whatever that was captured or killed, now." The combat team numbered 50 soldiers, all heavily armed. They entered the dead zone with full sensor packages running. The radiation levels were insane. Even in shielded suits, they could only operate for 30 minutes before the exposure became dangerous. They found the salvage team's bodies arranged in a circle. Their weapons were missing, and in the center of the circle, scratched into the scorched concrete, was a message in script. "We're still here." The combat team leader reported back immediately. "War Master, you need to see this." "See what?" "The message, and there's something else." The team leader's voice was unsteady. "Sir, I'm reading biological signatures, multiple contacts. They're surrounding us." "Retreat immediately." "Trying, sir, but..." Gunfire erupted over the comm, screaming, then silence. "Send a drone to investigate." It found the combat team scattered across a 3-block area. Their armor was breached. Their weapons were gone, and each body had a single bullet wound to the head. Terran-style bullet wounds. War Master stood in his command center and felt something he hadn't experienced in his entire military career: fear. "Recall all salvage operations," he ordered. "Pull everyone back to the ships." "War Master, the mineral deposits." "I don't care about the minerals. Get our people off that planet now." As they retreated to orbit, Lieutenant emerged from a ruined building and watched them go. Her armor was scorched black. Her helmet was cracked. Her biological readings were completely offline. According to the suit systems, she should be dead. But she was very much alive. "They're running," she said into her comm. Captain's voice crackled back. "Let them for now." Limped back through the ruins to the bunker complex. The reactor explosion had been hell. The radiation levels should have killed them all, would have killed any other species. But humans evolved on a death world. Earth had radioactive zones, toxic zones, extreme temperature zones. The human body adapted to survive in environments that would kill most aliens. Not comfortably, not without damage, but they could survive. The bunker's shielding had protected them from the worst of it. The radiation they absorbed during the evacuation afterward was brutal, but survivable. Barely. 743 Marines made it. 57 didn't. The medics worked around the clock treating radiation sickness, burns, and injuries. They had limited supplies, crude conditions, and they were all suffering from radiation exposure that would have hospitalized them on Earth. But they were alive. Sergeant Han met at the bunker entrance. His face was pale, his hands shook slightly from radiation sickness, but he was grinning. "Did you see them run?" "I saw." "Good," Han coughed, "because I don't think I could run right now if I tried." Inside the bunker, Specialist Bora worked at her improvised computer station. She had tapped into the communication network again. This time, she wasn't just listening. She was talking. Every night she hijacked their channels. She played sounds, human voices in the darkness, footsteps where no one should walk, laughter echoing through empty ruins. They called it psychological warfare. They didn't understand that it was more than that. It was a message. "You didn't kill us, you can't kill us, we're still here." Private Jin sat in the medical bay, receiving treatment for second-degree radiation burns. corporal sat next to him with a broken arm. "Think they'll send more troops?" Jin asked. "Probably," adjusted his sling. "Question is, will we be ready? We held off 50,000 with 800. Now we're 700, so..." Jin did the math in his head and winced. "We're screwed if they send serious numbers." "Maybe, but they don't know how many of us are left. For all they know, we're still at full strength." Jin laughed, then regretted it as pain shot through his chest. "You want to bluff an entire fleet?" "Why not? We bluffed them into thinking we were dead. That worked out." Captain walked through the bunker, checking on his people. Every Marine was injured to some degree. Every one of them should be in a hospital. Instead, they were preparing to fight again. "Sir," one of the Marines called out, "they are broadcasting something." Listen to the transmission. War Master was calling for reinforcements. A second fleet, 50 ships, 100,000 fresh troops. ETA asked. 4 days. 4 days to recover. 4 days to prepare. 4 days to figure out how 700 radiation-sick Marines could fight 100,000 soldiers. Join him, we could steal some ships, try to escape. And go where? If we run, the win. They get to say Earth's warriors fled in fear. Better than dying here. Looked at his Marines, burned, bleeding, barely able to stand, but still ready to fight. "We're not dying here," he said. "We're winning here." "How?" "I don't know yet, but we'll figure something out," he smiled. "We always do." That night, Specialist Bora sent one final message through the network. It was simple, just 3 words in language. "We are coming." War Master received the message in his quarters. He stared at it for a long time. Then he did something he had never done before in his military career. He sent a message to High Command. "Request permission to withdraw from 7. Advise against sending reinforcements. Human forces remain active. Repeat, human forces remain active." The response came back within an hour. "Request, reinforcements en route. This is now a matter of Dominion pride. The humans will be destroyed." Read the message twice. Then he walked to his window and looked down at 7. Somewhere in those radioactive ruins, humans were watching, waiting, planning. And for the first time in his life, War Master wondered if the Dominion had made a terrible mistake. Captain sat in the bunker's medical bay and watched the doctor inject another dose of anti-radiation medication into his arm. The needle hurt less than the radiation sickness. Barely. "You need rest," the doctor said. She was a Marine medic named, and she looked as exhausted as everyone else. "All of you need rest. Your bodies are trying to repair cellular damage while fighting radiation exposure. Sleep would help." "Can't sleep," checked his tablet. 4 days until the second fleet arrives. We need to be ready." "Sir, with respect, ready for what? We barely survived the first battle. Most of us are sick. We're low on ammunition. Our armor is damaged, and they're bringing twice as many troops this time." Didn't argue. She was right. By every logical calculation, they should evacuate while they still could. The civilians were safe. The mission was technically complete. But running felt wrong. Lieutenant entered the medical bay, moving stiffly. Her radiation burns were healing slowly. "Captain, you should hear this." She played a recording from the communication network. Specialist Bora had intercepted it earlier. It was War Master talking to his second-in-command. "The humans are still active," his voice said. "I don't know how many survived, but they're hunting my salvage teams. They're not acting like a defeated force. They're acting like predators." "What are your orders, War Master?" "I recommended withdrawal. High Command refused. They're sending the second fleet, 100,000 troops to crush 700 or 800 humans." There was a pause. "It's overkill, but High Command wants to send a message." The recording ended. "Looked at, they're afraid of us." Good stood up, ignoring his protesting muscles. "Call a meeting. All squad leaders, we need a plan." 30 minutes later, the squad leaders gathered in the command bunker. Sergeant Han leaned against a wall because standing straight hurt too much. Corporal had his arm in a sling. Specialist Bora looked pale from radiation sickness. Private Jin kept coughing. They were a mess. Status report said, Han, you first. Combat effective personnel, 743. Everyone's injured to some degree. Ammunition at 40%. Heavy weapons at 20%. Food and water sufficient for 2 weeks. Medical supplies, asked. The medic answered. Critical, we're out of anti-radiation meds. Pain medication is low. Surgical supplies minimal. If we take casualties, I can't guarantee treatment. Bora, what about intelligence? The specialist pulled up a holographic display. The Second Fleet will arrive in 4 days. 50 ships carrying approximately 100,000 troops. They're also bringing heavy assault vehicles and orbital bombardment platforms. This time they're not taking chances. Can we hold? Asked one of the squad leaders. The room went quiet. Everyone knew the answer. No, said honestly. We can't hold, not in a straight fight, not with our current numbers and resources. So what do we do? Han asked. Run. Shook his head. We change the game. They expect us to defend positions like last time. Instead, we go on offense. Offense? Raised an eyebrow. Sir, we're outnumbered 100 to 1. Which is why they won't expect it. Activated the display, showing 7 from orbit. They think we're trapped here, hiding in the ruins, waiting for them to find us. What if we're not here when they arrive? Where would we go? Asked. We can't evacuate, we don't have ships. We steal theirs. The room erupted in questions, held up his hand. Listen, they have salvage ships in orbit, lightly defended. They think we're stuck. If we can capture one, we have mobility. We can hit them on our terms, not theirs. How do we get to orbit? Someone asked. The old mining facility has a cargo launcher, Bora said slowly. It's designed to shoot mineral containers into orbit for collection. They haven't bothered to destroy it because it's in the dead zone. Too much radiation. Can it launch people? Han asked. If we reinforce the cargo pods, maybe. It won't be comfortable. Comfort's not the goal, said. Survival is. We launch a strike team to orbit, capture a salvage ship, then use it to coordinate attacks on the incoming fleet. Studied the plan. It's insane. Got a better idea. She thought about it. No, but you're asking us to shoot ourselves into space in mining pods, board enemy ships with minimal weapons, then fight a fleet. The survival rate is higher than staying here and waiting for them to drop 100,000 troops on our heads, interrupted. At least this way we control the battlefield. Han laughed. It turned into a cough, but he was smiling. You know what? I like it. They think we're cornered animals. Let's show them what cornered animals do. The vote was unanimous. They would launch the most insane military operation in human history. The next 3 days were brutal. The Marines worked around the clock preparing the mining facility's cargo launcher. The system was designed to shoot containers full of minerals into orbit at high speed. Shooting people required modifications. Corporal led the engineering team. We need to reinforce the pods to handle human passengers, add emergency oxygen systems, install manual controls, and pray the G-forces don't kill us. What's the G-force load? Someone asked. About 12 Gs for 30 seconds. Humans can survive that, right? Fighter pilots do for short periods with special suits. Looked at their scorched, damaged armor. We don't have special suits. Then we'll make do. Specialist Bora worked on the technical side, reprogramming the launcher's targeting systems. She also continued her psychological warfare against the. Every night, she hijacked their communications and broadcast sounds through the dead zones. Footsteps, breathing, human voices speaking in Earth languages. The salvage teams abandoned more positions. Some refused to return to the planet at all. The fear was spreading. Private Jin trained the assault teams. They would go up in waves, 6 Marines per pod, 12 pods total. 72 Marines would hit the orbiting salvage ships while the rest provided support from the ground. Our weapons won't be as effective in zero gravity, Jin explained during training. Movement is different. Recoil can spin you around, and we'll be boarding pressurized ships, so we can't use explosives without killing ourselves. So how do we fight? Asked one of the Marines. Jin grinned. Close quarters, hand-to-hand if necessary, we trained for this. The didn't. On the 4th day, the Second Fleet arrived. 50 ships materialized in orbit, bristling with weapons. War Master greeted the fleet commander, General Rax, personally. The humans are still down there, Rax asked, studying the planetary scans. Yes, somewhere in the dead zones. We've lost multiple patrols trying to locate them. Rax's scales rippled with amusement. You're telling me the mighty Dominion is afraid of a few hundred humans? I'm telling you these humans are different. They survived a nuclear blast. They're operating in radiation that should kill them, and they're hunting us. Then we'll hunt them back. I'm deploying all 100,000 troops. We'll sweep every sector, kill every human, and burn this embarrassment from Dominion history. General, I recommend. I don't care what you recommend, War Master. You failed. Now I'll finish this properly. General Rax ordered the assault to begin at dawn. The entire fleet would provide orbital support while troops landed in waves, sweeping through every section of the colony until the humans were found and eliminated. It was a perfect plan. Except the humans weren't waiting to be found. At midnight, the cargo launcher activated. The first pod shot into space at incredible speed, followed by 11 more in rapid succession. The G-forces were crushing. 3 Marines blacked out. 1 broke a rib, but they made it to orbit. The pods drifted toward the salvage ships on minimal thrust. The ship's sensors registered them as space debris. By the time the crews realized what was happening, it was too late. Sergeant Hand's pod crashed into a salvage ship's docking bay. The pod door blew open and Marines poured out, weapons firing. The crew scrambled to respond, but the Marines were already inside, moving fast and hitting hard. Close quarters combat. No room for plasma rifles, just guns, knives, and fists. They were bigger and stronger, but the Marines were faster and meaner, and they'd spent 3 days fighting through radiation sickness. Pain was just background noise now. Hand put 2 bullets in a warrior's chest, dodged a plasma blast, and slammed his rifle butt into another enemy's face. Around him, his Marines moved like a coordinated machine. They'd trained for this. Zero-gravity boarding actions, fighting in cramped spaces, using the enemy's size against them. Bridge secured, Hand reported over the comm. Ship is ours. Across orbit, 11 more salvage ships fell to Marine assault teams. 72 humans captured 12 ships in under 30 minutes. Lieutenant coordinated from the surface. All teams sound off. The reports came in. 12 ships captured, 53 Marines dead or injured, 19 still combat effective per ship on average. Not good odds, but good enough. Bora, can you control the ships remotely? Working on it. Bora's fingers flew over her keyboards. The security systems were tough but not impossible. Got it. I have access to helm controls, weapons, and communications. Good, because we're about to get their attention. Captain stood on the surface of 7 and watched the sky. Up there, his Marines had just pulled off the impossible. Now came the hard part. Using the galaxy as their battlefield. All ships, he broadcast. This is Captain, fire on the fleet. All weapons, make them hurt. 12 salvage ships turned their weapons on the battle fleet and opened fire. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Humans, who were supposed to be dead, attacking from ships they'd just stolen, against a fleet that outnumbered them 50-1. General Rax stared at his tactical display in shock. What is this? His second-in-command couldn't answer, because the only answer was impossible. The humans weren't defeated, they weren't hiding, they weren't afraid. They were hunting. The 12 stolen salvage ships weren't warships. They had minimal weapons, thin armor, and were designed to haul cargo, not fight battles. Against the 50 warships in orbit, they should have been destroyed in seconds. But Sergeant Hand didn't fight fair. Target their communication arrays first, he ordered from the bridge of his captured ship. Blind them, then scatter. The salvage ships fired in unison. Their weapons were weak, but coordinated fire punched through the communication towers on 3 destroyers. The enemy fleet's coordination faltered for just a moment. A moment was all the Marines needed. "Break formation," Hand shouted. "Move fast, stay random, make yourselves hard to hit." The 12 ships scattered in different directions, forcing the fleet to split their targeting. The salvage ships dodged and weaved through space, using every trick of evasive maneuvering. General Rax watched from his flagship in disbelief. How are they doing this? Those are cargo ships. His tactical officer studied the movement patterns. "Sir, they're using combat maneuvers, advanced ones. These aren't cargo pilots, these are military operators." "I know what they are." Rax slammed his fist on the console. "All ships destroy those vessels now." The fleet opened fire. Plasma beams and missiles filled space. One salvage ship took a direct hit and exploded, then another. 10 ships left. But those 10 were buying time. Down on the surface, Captain watched the battle in orbit and coordinated his ground forces. "Phase 2, he said into his comm. "All teams execute." Across the ruins of 7, the remaining Marines moved into position. They had spent 3 days rigging the entire colony with every trap, mine, and explosive they could create from salvaged equipment. The colony was one massive now, and they were about to walk into it. General Rax ordered the ground assault. 100,000 troops launched from the fleet in drop pods. They descended on 7 like a meteor shower, covering every sector simultaneously. This time there would be no escape for the humans. The pods hit the ground. They deployed in perfect formation, weapons ready. They advanced through the ruins in organized waves, scanning for targets. They found nothing. "Sector 7 clear," one commander reported. "No contact." "Sector 12 clear. No hostiles detected." "Where are they?" Rax demanded from orbit. Then the explosion started. Buildings detonated in chain reactions. Streets collapsed into underground tunnels filled with improvised bombs. Automated turrets rigged from weapons opened fire from hidden positions. The Marines had turned the entire colony into a weapon. "Ambush," a soldier screamed over the comm. "We're taking fire from." His transmission cut off. Corporal watched from a concealed position as a platoon entered his kill zone. He waited until they were perfectly positioned, then triggered the sequence. The building they were searching collapsed, the street beneath them exploded, and automated weapons fire raked the survivors. 40 down in 30 seconds, was already moving to his next position before they could respond. This was guerrilla warfare on a planetary scale. The Marines weren't fighting a battle. They were fighting 700 separate battles simultaneously, each one designed to maximize enemy casualties while minimizing their own exposure. Private Jin led a squad through the underground tunnel network. They emerged behind a column, fired a devastating volley, then vanished back underground before return fire could reach them. "Hit and run," Jin said. "Keep moving, don't let them pin us down." The casualties climbed. 1,000, 2,000, 5,000. They were killing Marines too, the human losses mounted, but the ratio was terrible. For every Marine that fell, 10 died. In orbit, General Rax received the reports with growing fury. This is impossible. We have overwhelming force. How are they doing this? Sir, they're not fighting us, his tactical officer explained. They're hunting us, using our numbers against us. We can't coordinate when every squad is under independent attack, and they know this terrain, we don't. Then burn it all. Orbital bombardment, full saturation. I want nothing left. Sir, our troops are down there. I don't care, fire. The fleet turned its weapons on 7 and opened fire. Plasma beams from orbit struck the planet's surface, creating massive explosions. Entire sections of the colony vaporized, including thousands of troops caught in the bombardment. War Master, watching from his ship, felt sick. He's killing his own soldiers. On the surface, Lieutenant saw the orbital strikes coming. All units fall back to the deep shelters, now. The Marines retreated into the reinforced bunker network as the world above them turned to fire. The bombardment lasted for 10 minutes. When it stopped, much of what remained of 7 was gone. But the bunkers held. 650 Marines survived the bombardment. So did 60,000 troops. The rest were killed by their own fleet. The silence after the bombardment was deafening. Then, slowly, the Marines emerged from the shelters. They stepped out into a landscape that was literally hell. The ground glowed red-hot. The air was toxic. Radiation levels spiked even higher than before. "This is insane," one Marine said, looking at the devastation. "We can't survive this." Captain checked his suit readings. Everything was in the red. His armor was failing. His radiation exposure was lethal. He should be dead. But he wasn't. "Yes, we can," said. He looked at his Marines, burned, bleeding, sick with radiation poisoning, but still standing. "We're from Earth. We're built for this." He activated his comm, broadcasting on all frequencies, Marine, everything. "Attention forces. This is Captain of the Terran Marines. You've tried to kill us with superior numbers. You've tried to burn us with orbital fire. You've even killed your own troops trying to get to us. And we're still here." He paused. "We're walking out of your flames, and we're coming for you." In orbit, General Rax heard the transmission. He looked at his tactical display. The human forces were moving again, advancing through radiation and fire that should kill anything living. "What are they?" he whispered. Specialist Bora had one last trick. While they were distracted with ground combat, she had been hacking their fleet systems. Ship by ship, she inserted code into their networks. Nothing obvious, just small errors in their targeting systems, tiny delays in their communications, subtle glitches that would only activate at the right moment. "Now," she said, and triggered the code. Across the fleet, chaos erupted. Ships received false targeting data, weapons systems locked up, communication channels crossed and jammed. It only lasted 60 seconds, but 60 seconds was enough. The 9 remaining salvage ships struck. They had been hiding behind orbital debris, waiting for this exact moment. Now they attacked with everything they had. Sergeant Hand targeted a cruiser's engine core and fired. The ship's damaged point defense systems failed to intercept the missiles. The cruiser exploded. "One down," Hand shouted. "Pour it on." The salvage ships weren't strong enough to win a fleet battle, but they didn't need to win. They just needed to create enough damage and chaos to make them hesitate. And they were definitely hesitating now. On the ground, the final battle began. The 60,000 surviving troops and prepared for one massive push. They would overwhelm the humans through sheer numbers. The 650 Marines formed a defensive line. They were out of tricks, out of traps. This would be straight combat, humans versus, one last time. "Here they come," Lieutenant said. The charged, 60,000 soldiers in a coordinated assault. The Marines opened fire with everything they had. The front ranks fell, then the next ranks, then the next. But they kept coming. The lines met, close combat, exactly what the Marines trained for. They were bigger and stronger. But the Marines were faster, meaner, and absolutely refused to die. Private Jin fought 3 at once. He dodged a plasma blade, shot one enemy in the face, used the corpse as a shield against the second, then stabbed the third with his combat knife. Around him, Marines clashed in brutal melee. This was humanity's secret weapon. Not technology, not tactics, just the simple, terrifying willingness to get close and fight until one side stopped moving. They had never faced anything like it. Their entire military doctrine was based on overwhelming firepower and intimidation. They weren't prepared for enemies who wanted to fight hand-to-hand, who seemed to get more dangerous the closer you got, who smiled while bleeding. The line broke, not all at once, just a few soldiers at first falling back, then a few more, then entire squads. The Marines pressed forward, driving into the gaps, turning retreat into rout. "They're running," Corporal shouted. "They're actually running." In orbit, General Rax watched his ground forces retreat in disorder. He had started with 100,000 troops. He had 60,000 left, and they were being driven back by 600 humans. His comm officer reported, "Sir, War Master is transmitting. He's begging us to withdraw." "Put him through." His face appeared on the screen. The War Master looked broken. "General, please pull back. We can't beat them. I've been telling you, these humans are not normal. They're not like any enemy we've faced. They walked out of a nuclear blast. They survived radiation that should have killed them 10 times over. They captured our ships. They're killing our soldiers. Please, pull back before this gets worse." Rax stared at the tactical display. He had 50 warships, 60,000 troops, superior firepower in every category. And he was losing. General pressed, "Your orders." Captain stood on a pile of rubble and watched the retreat toward their landing zones. His Marines were exhausted. Many were wounded. Some were dying, but they had held. He activated his comm one final time. "Forces, tell your Dominion what happened here. Tell them Earth sent 800 Marines to protect innocent people. Tell them you sent 50,000 troops to kill us. Then 50,000 more. Tell them about the orbital bombardment, the nuclear explosion, all the fire you threw at us." He paused. "And tell them we walked out of it, all of it, and we'll do it again if you threaten our allies." He looked at the sky where the fleet orbited. Earth remembers, Earth doesn't forgive, and Earth is coming. General Rax gave the order. "Full retreat. All ships, all troops, we're leaving." "Sir," his tactical officer couldn't believe it. "We're withdrawing." "We're withdrawing," Rax confirmed. He looked at the planet below, where impossible humans stood victorious in radioactive ashes. "Before we lose everything." The fleet pulled out of orbit. The ground troops evacuated as fast as their ships could carry them. They left behind their equipment, their wounded, their dead. They just ran. War Master's last transmission to the fleet was simple. "Never again. We never come here again. Mark this world forbidden. Mark humanity as apex predators, and pray we never face them in open war." 3 days later, rescue ships arrived at 7. They expected to find ruins. They found Marines. 593 survivors standing in the ashes of the colony they'd defended. Ambassador couldn't speak when he saw them. His translator just clicked uselessly. "Ambassador," Captain said. His voice was hoarse from radiation damage. "Good to see you. You're alive, all of you. We saw the bombardment, the nuclear blast. How did you?" "We're Terran Marines, sir. We don't die easy." The news spread across the galaxy fast. The humans had won. 800 Marines against 100,000. The Dominion, one of the most feared military powers in known space, had retreated in defeat. The Galactic Council convened emergency sessions. New classifications were created. Humanity was designated as an apex predator species. Diplomatic relations were fast-tracked. Trade negotiations began. And the Dominion issued an empire-wide directive. Avoid human forces at all costs. In the language, a new phrase entered common usage. Terran ghost walkers, soldiers who could not be killed, who walked through fire and death itself, warriors who made predators feel like prey. Parents used the phrase to frighten children. Soldiers used it to excuse defeat. Politicians used it to argue against further human contact. Captain received the Star of Honor, their highest military decoration. He accepted it on behalf of his Marines. Then he gave it to Ambassador. Your people stood with us, said. When they could have run, that takes courage. Your people died for us, replied. 207 Marines gave their lives protecting civilians they'd never met. That takes. I don't have a word for what that takes. Humanity calls it duty. We call it honor. We call it the right thing to do. The 3rd Terran Marine Expeditionary Force returned to Earth as heroes. They had done the impossible, not just survived, but won. And across the galaxy, every species with military forces looked at humanity differently now. They saw the footage. They read the reports. They knew what happened on 7. They knew what humans could do when pushed, when defending their allies, when refusing to surrender. The message was clear. Humanity had walked out of the flames, and they would do it again. Anywhere, anytime, for anyone who stood with them. That was what it meant to be human.